Hi, my name is Maria Camila Guzman Betancur, and today I'll be presenting my senior project. We've been working tremendously hard for the past year, so it feels great to finally talk about our discoveries. In this case, I'm going to be speaking of my own personal experience with economics today. As you may already expect based on the title, my project is all about economics. Economy plays a huge role in society, especially nowadays, where money is given an incredible importance, which is why I decided to learn about the impact caused by the evolution of money, especially in the Colombian population. You see this apple? Today it may cost you 2,000 pesos to buy one of these ones in the grocery store, but tomorrow it may be a completely different story. It may cost you 3,000 or even 4,000 pesos. Do you know why does that happen? Let me answer you. This is because of how the economy of a country fluctuates. Essentially, all this situation with the apple demonstrates a phenomenon called inflation. As you already know, I wanted to learn all about economics, but there were other goals as well. To start, this project aimed to reveal the advantages and disadvantages created by the evolution of money itself. It was always a dream of mine to maximize the impact of this project. This is why I decided to take it to the vastness of the internet. I wanted people to get involved regardless of their location. I wanted them to be able to learn as much as I did. This is why I created an Instagram account. It allowed me to gain a global perspective when collecting information, but it also helped me make my dream a reality. Last but not least, I use this account to share information related to this topic. This way, we were all learning. Not only me while I created the content, but also my followers, because I posted in a very didactic and innovative way. By this point, you may be asking yourself, why, if there are so many social media platforms, why Instagram? Well, let me answer this question. To start, I want to say that this was not a decision I took lightly. I wanted to consider all facets before choosing a platform to develop my project. This is why I did research on most commonly used platforms by young people, because they were my target audience. I discovered that young people were mainly using Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. With this in mind, I started research on each of these different platforms. Immediately, I discarded Twitter because I wanted to post audio-visual content, and Twitter didn't allow me quite that. Then I discarded Snapchat because it seemed informal and content will disappear after 24 hours. And I wanted my content to be available beyond the duration of this project. Finally, I had two remaining options, Facebook and Instagram. They were very similar platforms, so it was really hard for me to choose between them. What made me take this decision was that Instagram seemed new and dynamic. It perfectly reflects the standards of all these projects. Moreover, the general objective of the senior project was to create awareness in regards to economics, using an Instagram account as a tool. This tool will allow me to gain a global perspective, but also to maximize the impact of my content. This way, I could guide a Spanish-speaking population that wanted to participate and get involved. I could guide them in their path through learning economics. Furthermore, the specific objectives initially established were really a couple. Firstly, I wanted to develop innovative and creative content to share in this account. I wanted to make my content different. I was tired of accounts posting images full of text that were boring, and besides, they were not really effective at all. This is why I wanted to change the dynamic of this platform and bring new content into my Instagram account. Moreover, I wanted to analyze reliable sources. in order to understand how they operate. This way, I could copy all of these characteristics and traits into my own account, and as a result, I will end up with this reliable account that my followers will end up appreciating. Finally, I was hoping to create a schedule to share information in a calculated manner. Because if I post at a certain time every day, my followers will expect my post. And this will improve the effectiveness of the information that was being transmitted in the post. Subsequently, the hypothesis of this senior project is if a well developed Instagram account is created, then followers will have the opportunity to learn about economics in general, but also to have an outlet to learn what's happening economically both in the country and in the international community. Following background information. Basically, the economy is divided into time periods. Each period corresponds to a behavior that was acquired by previous generations. As you may see on this slide, there are 5 time periods: primitive community, slavery, feudalism, capitalism, and socialism. Each of them is unique in their own way. This is why I'm going to give a brief explanation on each of them. To start, primitive community. This period of time was all about the collective well-being. There was not personal interests involved, and people worked to help and satisfy the needs of the community. In other hand, slavery. This is definitely the complete opposite. Men exploited men, and it was all about personal gain and personal profits. Following, we have feudalism, where the social hierarchy was the protagonist. With this, I mean that roles in society were established, and people went under certain titles. Then, capitalism, that it's all about globalization, not only of people, but of products, revenue, and everything mainly. Then socialism, where the state plays a huge role in society in general, but especially and specifically in the economy of a country. Along with background information is research. This investigation was performed by Cadiz University, and it focuses on social media. They wanted to observe a new phenomenon in social media, and it's all about the usage that we as people are giving to these new platforms, especially they were analyzing Spanish deputies. Based on this research, I understood that there's an evident change in the usage that we as a society are giving to social media. This is why I decided to see these platforms as an opportunity to share information that I was learning in regards to economics. Correspondingly, I read some excerpts of this book written by Catherine Caudicio. In her book, she explains that everyone's learning skills are different. This based on neurolinguistic programming. It seems that each with this I mean that each of us respond different to different stimulus. This was key in my project because I saw the necessity to create different content that will be helpful to those who struggle to learn with the common system. What Caudicio establishes in her book is that a person could either be auditory, visual, or kinesthetic, each of them extremely different from each other. Differing from the research is the diagnostic. The diagnostic assessment had 2 components: surveys and interviews. For the surveys, the questions were asked on Instagram, where followers could easily answer them. Instagram was convenient for these surveys because I could use Insta Stories as a tool. This way, I posted multiple choice questions and even open questions that could be easily answered by my followers in just a couple of seconds. For the interviews, I had 2 amazing economists, Marta Esperanza Bobadilla and Mónica Mejía. Both of their perspective aid the development of my comprehension in regards to economics. Both Marta and Monica agreed that economics is a science that is sometimes forgotten by most of the population, and this is a phenomenon that needs a solution. Above all, I will show some of the questions that were included in the diagnostic. The first question asked in the Easy Stories was, what platform do you use to read news and inform yourself? As you can see in the table, Instagram was one of the highest voted options. This means that the audience for this account exists. It's also possible to analyze how old conventional methods to inform are being left aside. For example, a physical newspaper. This question allowed me to prove, firstly, that what Cadiz University was saying also applied to a Colombian population. It also showed me that the internet and all these different platforms and options are the future. Another question asked was, what makes you think a source is reliable? Based on these answers given, I tried to do everything to make my account reliable. You can see the answers include characteristics like spelling, design, and trustfulness. These were things I took into account when I developed my project. The field diary was divided into 5 sessions, each of them designed to complete a specific goal. Let's briefly describe each of them. Generally speaking, the first three sessions were focused on posting information in the account economia.hoy, specifically one topic per week with daily content. At the end of the week, there were a series of questions to measure how effective was the post being. In session one, I specifically focused on the history behind today economics. The purpose of this session was to have all the followers in the same level, so that when more complex terms appeared, they could easily understand them. This session was based on the Keynesian theory. So I did 5 posts on each of these different topics. Session number 2. It should be noted that this session was focused on describing the 10 most powerful countries in terms of their economy. All of this is based on the dependency theory. The post included information like their currency, the capital city, and mainly what their economy looked like, what were their strengths, and what brought those countries their incomes. Along with session number 2, session number 3 was a little bit different because it focused on talking about recent news. What this means is that there were not specific parameters or limits in this week's post. Mainly, I focused on what was happening in the world in regards to economics. All of this based on the institutional economic theory. Subsequently, this is how the follow-up questions looked like. The follow-up questions were crucial because they measure how effective were the posts in this Instagram account being, and if followers were really learning. Session number 4. In particular, this session focused on preparing for the day of the live stream. It was a challenge because in a live stream, there's no room for mistakes or second chances. That made me nervous and it required a lot of practice and preparation. Definitely, this was what I did in this session. I acquired all of this knowledge and abilities that I needed for the big day. Something positive is that there was an established theme. So this way I could practice and prepare, and it was needed really because the question needed to be related to previous posts. And this, as I said, allowed me to prepare. Moreover, session number 5 was the live stream, the big day, as I like it to call it. As I said before, this was a huge challenge because there was not room for mistakes. I could not rewind and start over because it was live. I was also worried because people might not ask me any questions, so I would end up sitting in silence waiting for someone to ask me anything. Luckily, everything went well. During this live stream, a total of 7 questions were asked, and they all had an immediate answer from me. From the beginning, I knew the duration of this live stream was going to be determined by the number of questions asked. In this case, it took me 13 minutes to go over the 7 questions. In this case, for the results included a lot of math. They involved a lot of math because it was necessary to do one graph per question to finally take all of that data and make one general graph that expressed all the information that was once collected. As you can see, this graph compares all the data, both the correct and wrong answers. Evidently, there were more correct answers than wrong answers. This proved that the content was being effective and the followers were actually learning about economics. To sum up, this was a great experience that allowed me to further my knowledge in every aspect. Seeing today's result is really satisfying for me. Knowing people learn from the project is really rewarding. And the fact that I created awareness means everything to me. However, I will suggest some changes for future trials. Firstly, it's important to be brave from the beginning. Don't be shy. Something that happened to me is that I was expecting to have an expert in the live stream, so she will be answering the questions of the followers. But because of all this COVID-19 situation, it was not possible. This meant that I needed to solve the problem and answer the questions myself, something that I was extremely scared of. In other words, this situation took me to the limit, and it's in that limit that we, as individuals, learn to shine the most. In conclusion, this project has led me to multiple thoughts. This information posted in the Instagram account will last for a long amount of time. This will be beneficial because people in the future can use this work that was done during this project for their own lives. The learning process of the followers was beneficial for their lives, and even I received some DMs where people were thankful for the posts because it helped them in school or because they really enjoyed the content in general. The fact that people are seeing your content and are learning from the post you made, it's really rewarding, as I said before. Evidently, people learn during this project and it is satisfactory. And I created awareness in regards to economic, which has a huge impact because followers now understand the importance of economics. And that was the main goal of this project from the beginning. Now, when you see an apple in a supermarket, I want you to remember that economics really matter. And they are not as complicated as people tend to think. It just requires a little bit of effort. And maybe you are overwhelmed with all of this science. If you are overwhelmed with all of this science, I recommend you to go to my Instagram account, economia.hoy. There you could have your perspective completely change because the information is break down into pieces. It's really easy and straightforward to go and understand. So I invite you to my Instagram account, and I hope that it's beneficial for your lives as well. The bibliography. Thank you very much.